I learned an awful lot on the road, but I learned a whole lot when I got home. Um, my wife came home a couple of days before me. I had one more project in England that hopefully I'll have a chance to talk to you about someday. So I stayed a little longer on the road, and she came home early. And we'd been in Lisbon, Portugal. Nobody was wearing masks. We were in um, Istanbul, Turkey. Huge city, by the way. It's the size of London. It's bigger than New York by far. Nobody was wearing masks. We were in Morocco. Um, Nobody was wearing masks. I was in London and in the countryside south of London. Nobody was wearing masks. But when my wife took the train from New York City upstate, which we're in an area that unfortunately is in the cultural zone of New York City, when she got off the train, 13 out of the 15 people were wearing masks. And I'm recording this on December 5th, 2022, just to give some perspective. The parts of the world that we went to where people work for a living are not at all worried about the next wave. And the people that sit on their ass and I don't know how they make their money, but they got a lot of it, and they're all shaking in their boots about the next wave is coming. But anyway, I got to read this little item in the newspaper. I read everything, right? And my radar is always out, and I want to talk just to show you how I think. Okay, so in my neighborhood here, in my region, there's going to be a lecture on, excuse me, violent extremism. Okay, because that's a huge problem, right? I mean, everywhere I look, I see violent extremism. No, I don't even see a whiff of it anywhere, except in the news. Okay, SUNY, this is the university that's still compelling its students to get boosters. All right, so for the spring, I'm recording this in 2022, the spring semester, if you want to go to a state of New York college, State University of New York College, you still have to be boosted and injected and all that. And there's a lot of universities, of course, every single university and college in California, but there are some states that don't have this nonsense going on. But the SUNY system is compelling healthy young men and women to risk their health getting a vaccine we know that doesn't work, and we also know causes grave harm. Thank you, State University of New York, and everybody involved in that. Anyway, they're worried about violent extremism, okay, and climate change. SUNY Ulster Office of Diversity, and that's a really interesting thing. Do you know that every university now has a diversity officer? I think I saw the University of Michigan has like 100 people. I mean, some insane number of people on their payroll just to deal with diversity issues. It's like, really? Anyway, hopefully I'll get through this. SUNY Ulster Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion welcomes, you can't make up these stories, Katrina Doxey, Associate Director and Associate Fellow of the Transnational Threats Project. Did you know there was such a thing, a Transnational Threats Project? And what is Katrina Doxey going to be doing at SUNY? She's going to discuss domestic terrorism this Friday, December 2nd at noon in the Quimby Theater at Vanderlyn Hall on the Stone Ridge campus. This event, you'll be happy to know, is free and open to the public. It continues. For the Transnational Threats Project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CIS, Doxey analyzes international and domestic terrorism and the irregular activities of countries such as Iran, Russia, and China. So the Transnational Threats Project is somehow paid for by something called the Center for Strategic and International Studies. I remember MIT used to have something with a name like that that department doesn't exist anymore. They used to send their grad students to study communication systems. And but coincidentally, they were always in a country about a year or two before the U.S. funded a coup in that country. It just always happened to work out that way. So anyway, I don't know what this group is or who funds it, but it's called the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And DOCSI is analyzing international and domestic terrorism and the irregular activities of countries such as Iran, Russia, and China. In recent years, it goes on to say, the United States has seen historically high levels of domestic terrorist activity. Really? Where? Some poor soul that's been pumped up on psych meds and maybe coached takes a gun to a public place. That's not domestic terrorism. That's a sick person that's been made sick by a sick society. So I don't know about this domestic terrorism business, but she seems to know it's historically at high levels, you know. And a wide range of conspiracy theories. Now, notice she's equating domestic terrorism and conspiracy theories. Okay, none of this is an accident. So in recent years, the United States has seen historically high levels of domestic terrorist activity and a wide range of conspiracy theories. You mean we've got a vaccine that we're forcing people to take that doesn't work? That's injured more people than all other vaccines combined since they started recording vaccine injuries? Is that a conspiracy theory? Or is that the government's own VAERS database? So what conspiracy theories is she looking into? I don't know. She's also looking into disinformation produced by individuals with violent extremist beliefs. I'm on the internet a lot, not as much as I used to be, but I'm on it a lot. I don't see these people. DOCSI will discuss recent trends, and that's going to be fascinating, in domestic extremist violence, the impact of disinformation, how these problems may manifest, and how they can be prevented at the community level. And we sure need that. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Registration's required, so you just can't show up and listen to this lecture. They want your name. For information, contact Candace Van Dyke at SUNY Ulster. Now, the last piece of this is priceless. COVID screening for guests will take place during check-in. Now, are they going to swab you before you hear this brilliant lecture? Or are they going to ask you for your vaccine passport? Obviously, they're not going to, I don't think you can do instant COVID tests unless maybe I'm not up to date on things. Maybe now they've got this instant COVID test and they're going to swab everybody after they register so they can hear Katrina DOCSI talk about the historic high levels of violent extremism and disinformation in America. Or maybe they're just going to ask you for your vaccine passport. So this is a little corner of the world. It's semi-rural, semi-suburban, and it's within the cultural sphere of New York City, and it's under the thumb of New York State. So this is what they're doing. Are they spending money teaching disadvantaged children and people about nutrition, you know, how they can get the most for their food dollar and eat well within the limits that they have? No, we're not going to teach them that. They're going to help kids learn math. They're going to help kids learn how to read. They're going to help kids with their handwriting. They don't even teach handwriting anymore. Can you imagine a society where people can't take notes with their hands? That's, if you got grandkids or your children or your nieces and nephews, are they learning even how to write with their hands anymore? They're not. But we got money. We got all the money in the world to give lectures on the rise of violent extremism and its connection to domestic terrorism and what else? Disinformation. And what you can do about it at a community level. In other words, how you can be a snitch, I guess. So just a little news item, but it's a sign of the times. and I'll have some more. This is from my this is not strictly from my trip. It's what I read when I got home from my trip. But otherwise, I'll have hopefully some more news about the trip itself. Hopefully, I'll talk about England a little bit. And what a bizarre and wonderful and exotic and strange place it is. Great people, absolutely sinister government. I mean, just beyond comprehension. But really lovely people in spite of it all. So that's Brass Check, and we will see you next time.
Brass Check TV, free to you, not free to us. We've got a server bill, we've got an email software bill, we've got a tech helper bill, and that happens every month. So to everybody that is supporting us financially, that's paying for their subscription in one way or another, we really appreciate it. If you're not, consider doing so. Everybody's got money for the newspaper and the cable bill and all that. Do you have money for media that's actually serving you? That's really the issue here. And when you help us, it allows us to get this information out to the world. So thanks to all our supporters, and if you're not a supporter already, please consider becoming one.